Hi everyone, a very warm welcome to Career with Kalpi. I hope all of you are keeping safe. In the last session, we had a wonderful conversation with Shweta Bajpayee from Facebook. If you missed it, I'll post the link in description. In today's session, we have an amazing guest, Uma Kasoji. She's a management consultant turned entrepreneur. She spent 17 years in the corporate world and then decided to pursue her passion for diversity by co-founding The Star in Me. The Star in Me is an exclusive career advancement platform for women professionals and a diversity partner for organizations. The platform was created with a vision to bridge the gender gap in the workforce and in leadership. Along with this, Uma also serves on the board of Indian Institute of Management, Coricot, her alma mater. Hi, Uma. Thank you very much for taking out the time to be on this series. Really excited to start our conversation today.
Thanks, Kalpi. Lovely to be here. Thank you.
So, first of all, we want to better understand your career journey and your transition from being in the corporate world for 17 years and then, deciding to become an entrepreneur. How did you think of Star in Me?
Yeah. So I'll talk about my career journey a little bit. So I graduated from IIMK as a fresher and started working with GE Capital from campus. In GE Capital, I became a Lean and Six Sigma Master Black Belt and used to do a lot of process re-engineering work. Post which I joined Infosys as a CRM consultant, did some IT related consulting work for a bit. And then I joined the Swiss bank UBS. Back to process re-engineering, I realized that was something I enjoyed doing. And while in UBS, I actually helped build a process re-engineering consulting practice. So we used to do a lot of internal consulting for the investment bank across Europe, US, and APAC. And that got me interested in the whole concept of consulting and so on. A couple of years into UBS, Cognizant acquired the India operations of UBS. So by virtue of which I became a Cognizant employee. And again, within Cognizant, I actually set up multiple consulting practices from process consulting to strategy to digital strategy consulting, and spent a lot of time building these practices, growing them across domains, across industries, across continents. So that's been an amazing experience. And of my 17 years of corporate experience, majority has been in consulting. And I've advised C-suite leaders across industries and worked across 5 continents in this journey.
Awesome.
So yeah, interestingly, a couple of years, in fact, around 5, 6 years ago, my co-founder and I, Mahua, actually met in Cognizant. She and I used to work there. And we once attended an industry conference. And, we step into the conference room and realize that we are the only two women amongst some 70 odd men. And the leadership, the gender gap in leadership could not have been more evident. It was literally staring us in the face. And then we started wondering, where did all these smart, ambitious women disappear? Why aren't they reaching leadership levels? And that is when that seed sort of was planted in our minds. And while we did quite a lot to encourage diversity and help women employees climb the career ladder faster in our organization, we realized that if we really wanted to make an impact, then we had to step out and do something much bigger. And that led to the conception of the Star in Me. And we started the Star in Me with a vision to bridge the gender gap in boards and in leadership. And our main idea was to leverage the experience that we had over close to 2 decades each to put in our learnings in creating products and services that would help other women climb the career ladder faster and grow faster. So that is how we, transition from a corporate life to an entrepreneurial life.
Awesome. So then, how did your roles and responsibilities change from a corporate career, and especially in consulting, to when you
Mhm.
started Star in Me?
In fact, there's a world of difference between a corporate career and an entrepreneurial, startup life. it's a completely different ball game. We thought that, having had 17, 18 years of experience in the corporate world, the startup world would be, quite simple, but then it was like stepping into an alternate universe. Um, Having reached senior levels in corporates, you have large teams who do things for you, and you have different, departments to take care of different things. But once start off with your entrepreneurial venture, everything boils down to the founder, at least in initial stages. So we had to do everything from operations to finance to marketing to legal stuff and so on. So the entire environment changes. You're sort of trying to catch up and get things done at the same time. So there's a huge difference. But the best part is that you end up learning so much. In the corporate world, after a point, you're sort of repeating the things that you already know. People can wake you up at 3 a.m. in the morning and you still be able to do a lot of things that are required of you. But here in the startup world, you're sort of discovering things on a daily basis. There's just so much to learn, and you end up learning so much. So, in fact, after 2-3 years of startup experience, I'd say I've learned more than maybe 10-15 years of corporate experience. So, the huge learning that way.
Got it. And so my next question is a bit related to this. In the
Mm-hmm.
startup journey, then, how has your role evolved over the last, 3 years or probably 5-6 years when you first started thinking about it?
Mm-hmm. So, in fact, our startup is quite young that way. We started around 2.5 years ago. So, when we started, our roles were, like I said, like a two-person army doing everything
Yeah.
that was required to be done. Over time, we began to hire teams. In fact, we just got our seed funding, so we are looking to hire more people into our team and so on. So from being that two-person army, you then start to build a team, which is extremely important in the startup world because you need the right people to help you grow and scale. So then you start to teach people how to do things and delegate and so on. So that is one thing that changed. The second thing is, in the initial stages of a startup, there is so much uncertainty. You're sort of running a race, trying to figure out things as you go. Whereas after a couple of years, when the startup stabilizes and you start earning revenue, you build credibility, then you have the time to take a breath and say, okay, fine. So now we've run the race. Now let's pause and think of how you want to take it further. How do you want to grow? How do you want to scale? So I think from that aspect, from doing a lot of operations in the beginning of the startup journey, now we've reached a stage where we can take a pause and say, okay, now let's start planning for the next 3 to 5 years. And how do you create your strategy and what kind of partnerships
Grow
do you
it.
want?
Yeah.
So that's how our roles have evolved.
Understood. That makes a lot of sense. Now, for the audience benefit and for youngsters' benefits, you have started hiring and you already have like a team of people. And I know the roles would be very different for which you're hiring. But in general, are there any skill sets that you want to highlight to our audience that you look for when you are, hiring for your startup?
So right now for our startup, we are looking for people in the marketing domain, digital marketing, social media, branding, and so on. We're looking for people in program management and business development and operations. So typically, while the domain goes with the kind of role you're hiring for, there are a few qualities that we really appreciate when we look to, build our team. One is we need driven people, people who are ambitious,
Yeah.
who know where they want to go in life, and who have that inner drive to sort of make it happen. Second thing is enthusiasm and that interest to learn something new and not getting fixated saying, okay, this is not part of my domain, so I'll not budge. So that enthusiasm to learn new things. And the third thing is nowadays creativity is a huge differentiator, because most of the time at work, whether in a startup or in corporate life, you're actually doing a lot of problem solving. So the amount of creativity you can bring to the table, think of things from a different perspective, that does help a lot. So a lot of questions during our interview process are focused on, these aspects to kind of judge if the person has the ability to learn new things quickly, if the person is driven, if the person is creative and can think out of the box, is the person interested in getting his or her hands dirty and sort of learning things. So these are the key qualities that we look for.
Thank you. That makes sense. And now coming to challenges, of course, everybody knows that being an entrepreneur is really tough. But you have not only been successful in creating a wonderful platform, but I've seen it, I've been there. You're also engaging women and corporates successfully into it. What were some of the challenges that you faced as an entrepreneur in the starting, and any learnings that you want to share with even, younger entrepreneurs?
So there are a few things that I'd like to, share with people who are aspiring entrepreneurs. So the first thing is, when you think of an idea to start off a venture, ensure that you're really passionate about it, because the initial few years are going to be tough, irrespective of who you are. Even if you're Elon Musk, the initial few years are going to be tough. So you need that passion to sort of carry you forward for those initial couple of years till the venture stabilizes. So if you're doing something just because you think it'll make a lot of money for you, then that's not the right intention to get into the startup world with. Or if you're thinking that the startup world gives you a lot of fame and hence you want to get into it, again, a bad idea to go with that as your purpose. You have to be really passionate about your entire startup idea. And the second thing is, along with that passion, you need to have some unique talent or skill set or experience that makes you the right person to solve that problem. Because as a startup, you're actually trying to solve some particular problem, right? Like in our case, we were trying to solve the problem of the gender gap that exists in the workplace and in leadership. When you try to solve that problem, you need to know why me and why not the other 1 billion people probably who are in a similar with a similar educational background and so on. So there should be something that you bring to the table, some unique skill set, experience, or domain that distinguishes you and says, okay, so he or she is the right founder to start off a business like this. So until you have that, then it's very easy for anyone to copy the idea and sort of move ahead. The third thing is you have to have a lot of perseverance. Initial years come with a lot of challenges because you're learning things, you're trying to discover things that work, what doesn't work. There will be a lot of ups and downs. I used to tell people that there were days in the initial years when my emotions sort of swung like a pendulum from utter desperation to ecstasy. So, you have to have the capability to withstand all these emotions and then stay in the game and come up fresh and ready to, begin your journey every morning. So the perseverance is something that you should have. Another learning is don't fall in love with your initial idea or your product, because it will go through a lot of pivots. If you fall in love with your idea and say, okay, so this is how it has to be, then things don't work. So you have to listen to your customers. In a lot of cases, your customers and the market will drive the direction of the startup and your product for you. So you have to listen very carefully and learn, and then pivot and modify your product or service accordingly. So don't fall in love with your original idea. The next thing is, it's very important to build a network. And, while in the corporate world, I did not make such an attempt to build a network. I used to sort of keep in touch with my alumni groups. But other than that, all my network consisted of were my colleagues at work. But I realized after getting into the startup world that it's extremely important to have a strong network across different areas, because that is where you get connects for different things. Suddenly you realize that you need a CA or a company secretary to help you with something. Instead of going to Google and finding people, you can actually call someone and say, okay, so have you worked with someone who they can refer if you need to connect with an organization? So networks come in really handy. So networking becomes very important. And finally, personal branding is something that, in fact, I began talking about in the past couple of years. And I realized the importance after becoming an entrepreneur, because in the corporate world, your company brand sort of carries you along. But then once you build a startup, you have to be the person in front of the company's logo. So your brand has to be extremely powerful. I keep narrating this experience that there was this moment when I realized the importance of personal branding. I went to get my business cards printed for, once we started the startup. I went to pick them up and I got the business cards and I started looking at them, and I realized in my entire corporate life, when I looked at my business cards, 99.9% of the value of that card came from the logo of the company that I was working for. You had a GE logo on it, you had a UBS or an Infosys or Cognizant logo. That made the entire business card valuable, and my name could easily have been replaced with anyone else's name and designation, and it would have been just as valuable. And here I was standing with my new business card, which said, my name and co-founder of the Star in Me. The Star in Me name itself came into being like 3 months before I got the card printed, so nobody knew it, of course. So then I realized that the onus was now on me to help my company build that brand, and hence I started to work on personal branding a lot more. And so it's extremely important for entrepreneurs to work on their own brand, because end of the day, right, irrespective of what you're building, people buy from people that they trust, know, and like. So as an entrepreneur, you're the face of your company, so you need to build a brand too. These are some key learnings from my startup journey.
I think thank you so much. Very, very valuable advice, definitely for the young entrepreneurs. You touched a little bit upon networking and mentorship, coaching, and I know you are passionate about mentorship and coaching as well. Have you had any mentors, coaches, sponsors through your career journey, and what has their role been like in your success?
Mhm.
I think I would add
Right.
a bit to it as well to kind
Sure.
of ask, how do you
Yes.
find the right mentors? Because a lot of
Mhm.
people struggle with that.
Sure. So, in fact, I'll share a couple of anecdotes. There is a lot of there's a lot that you can actually learn from people who have been in the same roles as you, who have sort of walked the same path as you want to walk. So mentoring is extremely important in the corporate world, and not everyone realizes the importance initially. For instance, in fact, the reason we build new products in the Star and Me is also a lot is based on our own experience and things that we've learned. When I initially, in the first 3-4 years of my career, I used to believe that, if I sat in one corner, put my head down, did my work very diligently, then people would automatically realize that she's so brilliant and all the recognition and growth will come my way. That I was so wrong, and I realized it later that you need to make yourself visible. I mean, in an organization where there are hundreds and thousands of people in similar roles, how can you stand out unless you make an effort, right? Even for your manager who's managing hundreds of people, why should they remember you and not the 99 other people in the team? So the onus is on you to make yourself and your work visible. And this is something that I learned over time. The fact that you should communicate more, speak up more in meetings. And nowadays, I tell people, you may be the smartest person in the room, but unless you open your mouth and talk, how will anyone know? It's not, IQ is not written on your forehead. So you need to speak up and share your ideas and your thoughts, your perspectives. Only then will people realize that, he or she comes with a very distinct perspective, and her thoughts are valuable, and so on. So these are lessons that I and my co-founder, in fact, learned over our experience. And when we talk to women leaders across the world, this is something that is so common. You talk to someone in the US, to Australia, to Europe, you come across the same sort of experiences. And what we did was, in fact, very recently we launched something called the Star and Me Premium, which is a subscription module of around 12 months, where we are actually taking people through a transformation journey, focusing on something called the intangibles, which are all these elements that I was talking about: impactful communication, self-confidence, how do you make yourself visible, how do you create a personal brand, how do you infuse more creativity into your thought process, how do you solve problems, etc. And interestingly, as soon as we launched this program, a lot of our initial candidates came from the IIM alumni group, which was very interesting. And when I talked to them, what they tell us, and later I realized also, is that these are not things that are taught in any business school or in a tech school. How do you speak up at work? How do you make yourself visible? These are things that one learns over time. And irrespective of what institution you come from, there are points in your career where you're suddenly taking a stop and wondering, where do I go next? And how do I get there? And so on. So our idea was that the Star and Me Premium sort of serves as a platform that helps people navigate and get to where they want to go much faster. So that is something that we started with this particular intent. And so in the same way, right, mentors often help because there are points in our career where we are stuck and we need to take a decision. So it's always good to rely on someone who has the knowledge, the domain experience to be able to help you. And typically there could be managers or senior people in your organization, or like I said, if you have a strong network, you can actually find someone in your alumni group or within the same industry. If you're actually attending a lot of industry events, you can make connects with people. So mentors are really important. And you also asked, how do you approach these mentors?
Yeah.
There are three things that you need to keep in mind. Okay, you can reach out to anyone on LinkedIn, if, for instance, or if you walk up to someone at an industry event and ask them if they could, be your mentor for a little while. You need to be very clear as to what is it that you're expecting from them. What do you need? Do you need like a 1 hour time every month to help you, like you may be interested in product management. So if you, firstly, you find someone who has expertise in, let's say, product management, and then you go tell them that I've been looking at your profile and I love the way you shaped your career around product management and I would love to learn from you. And that's your why as to why you're approaching that person. The second thing is, what exactly do you need from them? Do you need 1 hour of their time a month to help you understand, maybe what courses you should do around the area of product management, or what kind of skill sets you should develop in order to become a great product manager, etc. And that's when it becomes clear to them, and tell them at at a holistic level, you will need maybe 5 hours of their time over the next 3 months, and so on. So once it is very clear as to what you're expecting from them, then it enables them to say yes or no very quickly. But then, nowadays, I think people appreciate, um, even if they're really senior people, if someone takes the courage to approach them and is very clear as to what they want and why they want it from me and not from the 10 other people, then I think they're very keen to help out. So I think these are a few things that one needs to keep in mind as they approach mentors.
Thank you. That was super helpful. One last question for you. You also serve on the board of IMK. Can you tell us a little bit more about that journey and what that role entails?
Yeah, so it's actually really exciting. The moment it was, I think, 2.5 years ago when I was asked to join the board of IMK, and it's actually so thrilling because the business school campus, and I'm sure you would relate to it, becomes so critical a part of our lives that to be able to go back there and to go back there in the capacity of being a board member is amazing. So as a board member, you basically get to sit on discussions entailing the strategy of the institute, what kind of courses should be launched, how should the student intake be, what kind of fee structure should you have, what kind of faculty should you bring in, how do you build a brand for the institute, and so on. What is the direction of the institute in the next couple of years? So it's extremely interesting to be able to contribute to the growth of that institute that you graduated from. And, typically on these boards, you have really senior, experienced industrialists. So there is just so much that you can learn from the insights that they bring to the table. And overall, I think it's an amazing experience to be able to contribute, learn, and be a part of the institute's history.
Yeah, that definitely sounds amazing. Coming from a campus and then going back not for recruitment but actually being on the board is, I'm sure, super amazing. So thank you so much, Uma, for the wonderful insights and sharing your wonderful journey with our audience. We wish you a very long and successful career ahead with the Star in Me. I'm sure it'll do great. And thank you everyone for watching. I'm sure you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. Please let us know in comments if you have any questions that you want to ask on this discussion from Uma, from me, or if there's any career path that you want to know more about. Stay tuned to Career with Kalpi. Keep safe. See you in the next video.